Okay, so the first video. Plans here is just to kind of clean up, do a little bit more of the logistics and details as it comes to gameplay. And then we're going to develop a little bit more in the next video. Okay, and first, I want to focus on the title slide because I didn't do much of that, right? I told you to do a title slide, and that was just more of a design, which possibly you did already. And I think if you can see here, if you remember my level 1, I have all this going on with trees and all those things. Um, not entirely sure what my game is just yet, but there it is. So I just grabbed those assets, and that's what I made my title to be. Okay. And the first thing that came up that I wanted to be part of was, and well, I guess this here. So I didn't, and I don't remember talking about this. I wanted to put a bit of a pattern in my background, so you could remember I did the tile background for that. You could if you wanted, right? So this is layer 0. I could if I just maybe change the solid color over here, uh, but I didn't. So that's a pain, right? Because every time I click on it now, it seems like I want to edit this sprite that is the tile background, but I don't. So just remember, you can go ahead and lock that darn thing. So lock selection. Okay? So we're good to go there. And then when you go to put in text, it's not this one. So just be careful. A couple of us made a mistake because we saw text input, and you could logically see that and be like, yeah, well, I want to input text so it has a title. But that input generally is for the user. We are just going to do this standard sprite. We're not going to do sprite font, right? I'm not going to draw every single letter, at least for this. I mean, if you want to, by all means. So it's just going to be a regular text. I'm going to say insert. And then it comes up as such. Real small, not a big deal. But this time, usually, so if I double click on this tree, the sprite editor comes up. So of course, one would think I double click on this text, and there you have it. The text editor comes up. And this is where you put what it's going to be, what it's going to say, right? I'm going to call this my game. Oh boy. All right. So we're going to call it What the Truck. Okay. And there you have it. Now, generally, you can see if there's nothing really much going on in these general vicinities, everything must be controlled over here in the properties, which it is. So cruise down, cruise around. We can see here properties. My text is fine. I could edit it here as well with those little elliptical thingies or whatever the heck it's called. I don't know what this BB code is, so I guess leave it checked by default. Arial's not what I want. I want to make it a little bit more fun, so I'm going to pick one. Sure, that's fine. So I changed the font. I'm definitely going to change the side. I'm going to get that up there to like 72. Line height's not relevant on this one. It is obviously a different way to say, not obviously, that's not true. So line height is their way of saying spacing. So I'm going to leave that for now since I only have the one line. I want to leave it at 0. I do want to bold it slightly. It happened. I don't want to italicize. I want to change the color. And I like using these little pencils. I mean, you have all these other options up here, but I think these pencils are cool. I'm going to go with ocean. And now you can see, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Again, I don't have much going on, and I have a transparent background, but if I want to have this like in a box, that's where this stuff comes in. So I'm going to put everything here at the center, and don't worry about that. So there you go. That's pretty much the gist of how you do text, right? And I'm going to align it just right. And you can if you want. I mean, we saw some titles that had a bunch of behaviors to them, right? I could do a sign one if I want. Where's behaviors? So there's behaviors that I could add to this. I could make it spin and rotate, the sign, the back and forth. I could even double up like we've been doing it, whatever you want to do. But that's just stuff you want to play with. I'm just going to go ahead and leave that there. Next up, what I want to do, and maybe I'll align this just to straighten it out a little bit, is we didn't discuss kind of the navigation, right? So this, in your game, what you're going to do is have a button here that goes to another layout, specifically a directions layout, right? So you're going to want to talk to them a little bit about gameplay, how to play it, controls and all that. I'm not going to do that just because of wanting to show you. So we have to put on a button, right? And the button is, quickly, button. Right here, see? Button. And when I put that button on there, I don't want you to be too alarmed because it is, well, it's ugly, right? I want to make it the same size as the word the. And it looks like that. It is not visually appealing whatsoever, which is okay. So as with anything else, even if I double click on this thing, nothing happens. So I know I have to come over to my properties. I do want to call that the begin underscore BTN for those of you who know Flash. I'm not going to keep it global because it's just going to be on this screen. I don't want to do any behaviors or anything to it. I just want this to be a standard button. So here's my type. I want to keep it a button. The text is okay. No, I want it to say begin. The tooltip, click to begin. I'll even put trucking in there. Trucking. And initially visible, yes. I want it to be enabled so we can actually use it. And then auto font sizes for the responsive screens and all that. So the good news is it is hideous looking here. But when I preview, look at that. It's a button, right? That is a classic button. And I'm actually okay with that. It differentiates a little bit from the layout, so I know exactly which is which. So what do I want to do now? I want this button to go to my layout 1, right? And of course, we know that I did the title with the title event. Again, I'm going to click over here. I can see that I'm on title, and it comes with the event sheet title event. And just as a refresher, what I would do, for those of you who don't remember, is when you say add layout, which I did for title, you have an option of even just adding the event sheet or just keeping the layout. Again, I always add the layout just because I like to organize things, but that's okay. So there we have it. So now I'm going to go to my title event, and I'm going to add an event. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and say this begin button. And my most favorite thing here is the suggestion, right? On clicked, absolutely right. I want to do on clicked. Well, what do I want the begin button to do on clicked? Well, I want it to go to another layout. And one thing you have to get kind of familiar with is we've been putting a lot of events on our objects, but now I want to go actually as far as this thing is concerned in the game. So that's where I want to go to system. And on that system, I can go through here. See, they're all layered nice, and then it says layout. See that? We have the display, the general, the global, and then we have this one called layout. Then all I have to do is say go to layout, and by default level 1 was there, but you see my other ones are there as well. Level 1 object and all that stuff. So there we go. So that's just some clean stuff as it comes to this title. How to use text and manipulate it a little bit. And then, of course, the navigation of the button. That's just one thing I wanted to cover, and I'll show you there how that works. We're good. Click begin. Here we are in level 1. Okay? Now, next up is kind of, we talked about the shooting a little bit, right? So now I want to clean that up. I'm going to come over here to my level 1 and make sure that my level 1 sheet's open. I don't need title anymore, so I'm going to close that. And I have this, let me zoom in just a little bit more, so it's, and now I need, for gaming terms, right, an enemy. So I'm going to go ahead and put an enemy on there. And it's going to be a sprite. And you know how I am, I already did all this stuff, so I'm going to grab my, what did I call it? Sport bike? Or road bike? I'm going to do sport bike. So I got my little bike, there it is. It's probably a bit, yes it is. So I'm going to make it maybe 225. Did I keep the aspect ratio? Yeah, 224? That's odd. 225, 118, keep the aspect ratio, and there we go. So now I'm going to treat this as if it's, I don't know if trucks generally consider a bike an enemy or not, but in this case we're going to. So a couple things with an enemy, that's actually a little small, so I'm going to make it bigger. Size, let's say 300. Cool. And name it, right? So sport underscore bike. Okay. And there he is. Now what I want to do is if I preview this, I think he's just going to sit there. Of course he is because I didn't do anything to him. In the future, I'll do things, right? With other videos, we're going to have him be like a line of sight, maybe an enemy that patrols. But for now, he's just in the way, okay? And did I put him on the right layer? Yes, I did. So to make him in the way, I have to go that extra level here, and I'm going to put a solid behavior on him. And that just means he's solid. He's obstructing my truck's path. So as I drive along, I drive along, I drive along, boosh, I can't go anywhere. Oh, well, that's odd, right? Don't care much for that. All right, you know what? Since we're doing a video, I'm going to go ahead and change that too to make this, because even the way that this truck turns around and whatnot is not all that natural. So here's what I want to show you next. And it has a lot to do with our image points. And I think some of us had some of these problems. So right now, that truck is turning that way because of my, what are we calling it? The origin. I want to put that origin somewhere back in the middle. I don't know where, so this thing is 500. So my X, the whole thing as a whole is 500 by 280. So the middle would be 250 and 140. Nah, maybe not 140. Let's do 125. Whoa, did it just go higher or lower? Oh, that's odd. So I'm going to do 250. And 200? Yeah, okay. I'm okay with that. That's about in the middle. So that's the first thing I want to do is let's make this thing a little bit more natural and see if it turns better this way. So just make sure you're on your origin, and then I can just do this up here again like I did. 250 tab 200. And then I'm going to have to do the same thing here. So 250, 200. Which one was that? One? Okay. Now it's 510. Okay. 250 tab 200 tab. And I know this stinks doing this later, but it's really got to make it a little bit more natural, and I think this is going to help a lot. 250 tab 200 tab, and then finally 250 tab 200 tab. All right, now let's see what that did. Whoa! And make sure he's flopping just right. All right, see that? I mean, that's a little bit more natural. Not technically. I mean, we all know trucks take a little bit more. But then the problem lies with that. See? Now at my origination point of when I spawned an object, right? I forgot that I took that behavior off for an example. Now the difference is when I spawn that object now, it's spawning at that origination point, remember? Like we all have that kind of problem. That it's spawning here. But what I want to do is, let's go ahead and add over here a new image point. Oh, apply to all animations. Let's see if that works. And can I rename it? And I'll just call it shoot. Where the heck did it go? Is that it up there? I'm going to put it right there. So 506. So I'm going to make it just so it's 500 tab 300 tab. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Apply to whole animation. Well, son of a gun, I could have done that. Whatever. Okay, cool. So we have that. Now I'm going to do the same thing to driving. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say add new image point. I'm going to rename it and call it, hopefully I can call it shoot. Yes, it can. What did I say it was? 505? 500, 300. Oh, okay. 500, 300. I want to see if that works. Apply to whole animation. Yeah, it sure did. Darn it. So now I have, what you saw me do is I still have my origination point so I can control a little bit neater, better. Obviously not realistic. But then I have this image point now, right? So let's, now when I play this, like I said, it turns better, a little bit more But now it's shooting from up there. And I even think even my oil is dripping from the wrong spot. So now let's go back to our event sheet. And so I'm spawning the oil, but here see it says image point. I should be able to shoot, right? Save state JSON. Okay. Did I call it shoot? All right. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and put a 1 then. Let's see if that does something. And same thing with this. The horn, it says use 0 for objects of horn. I don't want to do that. Or the name or number of an image point. And I did that. All right. Well, I'm just going to do the number. Let's hope that works. So done. So image point 1. Let's see if that driving along. There you go. See that? So just because I put that image point up there, it's almost like giving it X and Y coordinates with the symbol of a name. So let's see even if my oil, yeah, so my oil even drops from there now too. So I like that a lot. That's a little bit more natural looking. Hit that bike like that. Get out of my way. So that's good. I like that. All right, so now what we're going to do is continue on with that, and I want to be able to remove this motorcycle from my path so I can continue on playing my game, right? And we're going to do that in twofold. We've already kind of sort of done that, right? With the oil, I really quickly did that. And what I want to say is, so when the horn is on collision with what? I'm going to say sport bike. What do I want it to do? So the horn is obviously my bullet, is my weaponry. So I want that to not be there anymore, right? So I'm going to say sport bike, scroll down, destroy. And I know I've said this before. I like to use destroy because it moves the whole instance of that sprite, that object, from the stage. Really cleans things up. So let's go ahead and see what happens. Got our truck driving along, we're driving along, and there we go. Now, to make this even more natural, we see that that horn sound definitely carried on, which is fine, but at the same token, you might not have sound that goes on forever, you might have something else, so I'm going to add the action of the horn destroying as well. And all I did was just, because I know that this horn is doing all the colliding, I just added an action to that. So now we're driving along, shoot, boom, scram. That motorcycle is now out of the way. But again, as far as things are concerned with gameplay and making it just a bit more natural, I want it to explode, right? You're going to definitely have something that explodes in your game, so I think we should do the same thing. And what I'm going to do is go to the object layout that I have. This is kind of my library that we talked about, right? Move these things out of the way here. And there's two ways that you can go about this, right? So I want this sport bike to explode, and it's black, green, and yellow. It looks like maybe a little bit of gray. So what you can do initially is double click to add something and scroll down and look for particles. And what particles are / is or whatever is exactly what you think it is. It's when something breaks into particles, into pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and say insert. And it didn't do anything. Particles. Insert. There we go. Now, what you're going to notice first and foremost is right now it's not, and I'm going to go up to here and it's 250 by 250. Even if I were to put this thing up there to say 555, it gets bigger here, right? And I'll show you here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and do everything now. So let's see, the bike had some black, right? Okay, and then it had some lime green. Lime green. Where's the lime green? Okay, I'll do a different shape. Just making a mess. Nothing crazy. And I'll even add some, what did I say, yellow and gray? I know this doesn't have to be super authentic or anything like that, but, you know, why not if we can? Why not? Add some yellow in there. And finally, some gray. Okay? So now what I've done is I've created kind of this hot mess, right? But you'll see that it's a hot mess. Here it is. And I'm just going to hit play up here. There's my hot mess. See it? The black, the green, it is particles now. It is particles happening. And you can even see a little slightly, see how they're kind of fading away? I mean, it's a pretty natural looking particle. But, again, I'm making an explosion, right? So there isn't much of an explosion there. Is there more of a gas leak? So I see this red here, and I know that I double click. So, of course, this is becoming redundant. I know I need to mess around with my properties. I'm going to call this bike particles and show you something. I can cruise down, and here we go. Properties, right? Instance variables and also properties. So my rate is the speed that it was coming at. I don't want this to happen too fast, so I'm just going to say 30. And here's this next thing. It's called spray cone. You can see that right now it looks like 60 degrees, right? So that's exactly what that is. They're looking for this in degrees. I want to do it in 360. And I also do not want a continuous spray because it's an explosion, right? I just want it to happen in one shot, like kaboom, okay? And that's one way you can do this. And I'm going to show you here. There's other things that we're going to get into, but for now, I just want to show you this quickly, that those are just shapes and colors that I made. So when I hit this, kaboom. See that? You might have gone really fast, but kind of watch there in the middle, kaboom. I mean, that's a pretty natural looking explosion, right? I'm okay with that. I like that a lot. But if you want, so if you have something actually very specific that you want to explode, as I do with this sport bike, you have an option here. It says object. See that? So what I could do if I wanted was click on this elliptical, or I can't remember what those three dots are called, and just pick what I want to explode. So in this case, I want it to be the sport bike. So you see what I did there? I put that sport bike in there. And now when I get, look at that. It's hard to kind of see, but it's actually smaller versions of the bike, isn't it? But you can see the wheels. You can actually see the motorcycle kind of exploding. And then I just continue on with my thing. These are just everything that you can play with, right? So the speed is at 200. I want it to be a little bit slower, so I'll put it at 125. The size, I want it to be pretty big. I'm going to do 90. And all these things are just little silly things you can do. It's up to you if you want to do them or not. So I'm not even going to get into it, but here we go. I don't know what just happened, but basically the bike exploded, right? I like that idea. It makes it a little bit more natural if you're having some sort of game where things are interacting. I know some of you are talking, I think there was fruit involved. Somebody had fruit. You know, if you slice it, it's a way to do a particle. And you can add effects to this as well. So where's my effects? I don't know what most of these mean. I don't. Here's distortion. Let's do, I don't know, swirl? Okay, nothing happens at all because it's a particle, but whatever. So coming back now, what is it that we want to do? So I want this truck to blow its horn and kaboom, explode when it comes in contact with my motorcycle. And if I go back to we've done this before, so it's not much that we have to worry about. I definitely want it to destroy those two things, so those are going to disappear. And I have that on my object layer. And you know the pattern of when I have something on my object layer, we do what? It's there because we want to spawn it, right? So I come back to my event sheet and I'm going to say, I want bike to spawn an object, and I want that object to be bike particles, okay? And I want it to be on game space, which is layer 1, so I'll do layer 1. And I have no problem it being at the origin of that image point, so I'm going to say done. So now when I preview this, I'm driving along. Whoa, I got to go this way. You know what? I have to go this way. Kaboosh. Off I go. So those are just some things that you can do to make the gameplay just a little bit more natural. All right? So that's this video. Got another one coming.